Hello everyone and welcome. It's Shanna. Now in today's video we're going to make 3 interactive cards. We've got 2 pictured here and we're using some hero arts, and we have got the Big Mouth Cat die set here, and these are some big dies. So you can see this great big cat, and then you've got all the little elements that go along with them, a bow tie, some whiskers, and just all the bits and pieces. We're going to be working with that. And then we have also got the Big Mouth Vampire die set. And this is the set. And you can see we've got a great big vampire. And then in addition to that, we have got the Big Mouth Jack-o'-lantern. And these are interactive cards, and we're going to be building 3 interactive cards with all of these. And you also need... This is the die set for the jack-o'-lantern. You also need the Big Mouth Slider die set, which are these 3 dies right here. It's called the Big Mouth Slider die set. And this is the mechanism that helps you create the sliding feature. In addition to that, we have got a stamp set that coordinates with this set. It's called Bite Night Stamp Set. And we've got lots of different sentiments. Have a Fang-tastic Halloween, all treats, no tricks. I've also got the die set that goes with it. Fang so much, just lots of fun sentiments for that. So I have die cut out our cat, and we are going to get to assembling our cat, and then we will start putting together our interactive card. And so we've got these eyes I'm going to get laid down on here. You've got some nice detail so that you know where to land. I chose this lime green color for the eyes. I thought it would just pop off of the black. We've got Spellbinders Raven cardstock, and then that green is just something I had in my stash. I'm using Anchor for the nose, and I've got some Bellini for the ears, and I'm going to bring in some Poppy for the bow tie and the collar on the cat. And we're just going to get all of these laid down on here. There are some additional pieces for the eyes. I'll come back around to them. And we've got some fangs as well that we'll add. You've got some detail on there for these whiskers, and I've got all those die cut out and Anchor, and we're going to get those laid down on our cat, and it'll just add some extra detail to his face. So I'll glue up some of these and get them laid down. I'll cut some of them out. There are 6 of them, and there is debossed detail on there, and you can just lay it right down on there. And I think I'll kind of fast forward through these, and we'll get them all laid down on there. And the die sets are fairly simple. The mechanism is a little bit, it takes a minute to get it lined up exactly right and to make it work. And I had my own struggles with it, but we'll talk through that as we go. So I'm going to get all these whiskers laid down on here. And just trying to clean up the glue and make it as clean as I can. And there I kind of fast forwarded, and we're on the last one. And so then we'll come back in and we'll add the eye pieces and the fangs and all of that, and just kind of finish off this cat. So here's the collar, and there is a collar, and then there's a bow tie for this cat as well. I'm just going to give that a little press. And then we've got our bow tie. Here is the little knot to the bow tie. I'm going to layer it up, try to get it layered on there correctly. And then it'll just kind of go there on our collar. And then I've got my other little bits and pieces. You've got the ovals to the eye, so that you've got some detail there. We'll get those laid down on there. And then we've got 2 white fangs for the teeth. And they're underneath my little red cardstock there. And I've got another ear there because the ears are different, and you got to get, I was using scraps to cut them out, and I actually cut the same ear twice, and I needed to get the other ear, so I had to die cut another one out. But there we go. So we've got our cat all together. We've got the bow tie. Now we're going to look at this mechanism. Now this piece here I've die cut it out 2 times with heavy cardstock and layered them together. This makes a frame. This piece here, you're going to kind of create a channel in your panel, your top panel, and you're just going to die cut this out. This will create a window where you can stamp your sentiment down on it. So I'm going to get it lined up in the middle of that, and I'm going to put some tape on there and take it to the die cutting machine. This panel will actually lay on top of your mechanism panel, and this will give the slider portion area here. And so it's going to kind of lay on there like that. And then I'm going to bring a white panel for the underneath of it. Now I need this slider panel, so I'm going to take some more poppy and die cut it out. And then we'll create a slider panel for it. So we've got this panel in there, and this will set in the channel is what it's going to set in. So this area here is kind of a little channel, the lower half of it, and you can see it'll lay inside of here, and this is where it's fully open, and then it would push up to be closed like this. And so that's how it's going to work. And I will tell you, your little pull handle, you put it on the underneath of that red sliding panel. I made the mistake of laying it on top the first time, and you want it to be underneath so that you don't see the black above kind of the mouth area of the cat. So anyway, I'm going to get that laid down on there, and then we'll get this panel in here. And this is, I'm just showing you, it's just going to slide in there. So you're going to glue this up and get it laid down to the white panel. I've chosen white because I'm going to stamp my sentiment in that. We'll use some colors on our pumpkin one, but you're just going to glue this up, and you just glue it down on your panel, and then this will be the little mechanism area where you can slide that piece in and out of there. So you can see this, there's edges at the bottom to stop it, and then there's edges at the top to stop it as well so that it won't press. Now here is where you're going to want to put the slider piece underneath it. Glue it to the bottom, and that way it won't show. I made the mistake of gluing it to the top, but I think I fixed it by just nestling my bow tie up just a smidgen. So I'm just trying to line up my cat and see how I'm going to get him laid down on here. And basically you're going to want to put the bottom of the cat clear down to the bottom of the cardstock. And you don't want to glue in the center bottom or around that cutout area, because you don't want glue to get on any of your slider portion at all. And so I'm just getting this lined up in my channel and trying to figure out how I'm doing it. And I'm still thinking, oh, now I'm going to put my pull. I'm going to use the pull stamp from the sentiment, and I'm going to use some Versamark ink, and then we'll use some white embossing powder, and we're just going to have a white pull on it. So I'm just bringing in the Misty just in case I have to double stamp, and that way I can get a good stamping on it. So I'm just going to get that lined up on there, try to make it straight. I'll bring in my nudging tool from Spellbinders, and we'll just nudge it over and try and line it up. Just trying to get it nice and straight, and then we'll just pick it up. I've got to bring in my anti-static powder tool, and then we'll ink it up, and we will get it heat embossed. There we go. It's stamped pretty well. So I'm just going to bring in my white embossing powder, sprinkle it on there, and then we'll get it heat embossed. I like to do a couple of sprinkles, and then we'll get our embossing powder put away. I'm going to bring in the heat gun, and we'll just heat this up and get it going. Then I'm going to let it cool really, really well so that I can wipe all that extra powder off of it. So here I'm going to lay this down in here. I'm still eyeballing it. This is the first time I'm assembling it, trying to figure out how I'm going to do it, and making sure everything's lined up nice and neat, and that the channel's, going to work and everything. And so you can see you want to get it clear down to the bottom of the panel. And then I'm going to put this on here, and this is where I glue it on the top, and I should have on the bottom. This one will work, but I would recommend putting it on the bottom. I'm using some glue and some tape runner just so that I'll have some immediate hold. and you can see it sticking up there, and I'm like, oh boy. So I'll finagle with it. I'll keep moving it down. I think eventually I was thinking I might have ripped it off and put it on the underneath afterwards, but I don't think so. I think I just wind up putting the bow tie up a little bit higher on his collar, and then it'll cover it up. So I'm going to bring in my stamp that I'm going to stamp the inside of my panel with, and for this one I'm going to choose Happy Halloween. And I thought about stamping it because we have dies for it, and I thought about stamping it on white and die cutting out, and then I thought, no, I don't want anything in here that's going to impede my ability to slide. So we're just going to stamp it right on there. Now I thought I'd lay my cat back down so I kind of get an eyeball of the area of where I need to position this, and so that's what I'm doing. And then I'll just lift my cat back off of there, and we'll just stamp it right down on there. I suppose I could have left my cat in place, but I did just lift it, and then I realized I moved it, and so I had to lay it back down again. And I've got my nudge tool. I'm going to get it lined up in there, and then we'll lift the cat up, and now we're just going to get it stamped down in there. And I'm using the corner of the Misty to line that panel up, and I use the corner of the Misty to line my cat up, and that way it would be just right where it needed to be. And I'm going to ink this up really well, give it a couple good presses, and we're adding Happy Halloween to the inside of the cat. Now there are lots of fun sentiments while I'm doing this. I'll tell you some of the other ones. Happy Bite Night, which I'm going to use that on the vampire. It's got Bite Me, Happy Halloween, Fang So Much, Hocus Pocus, I Need Candy to Focus, that's kind of fun. Which better have my candy 'cause I bite. That's funny. It's all fun and games till somebody loses a fang. And it's also got nom nom nom. You've got pull, and then you've also got an arrow, keep calm and scary on. Lots of fun sentiments. So I just keep trying to line it up and see how it fits and what works. I'm going to try this bow tie to cover up the black since I laid the pull on the wrong side. And I'm just going to work this out. Certainly the first time you do something like this is a learning experience, and so this was my learning experience. I probably should have done one off. Actually, I did kind of dry fit one, but as an example, I used some scrap and did it. But I didn't get this far along, and I think I probably should have practiced before I started making the video, but we're just going to get this laid down on here. It will come together, and it will work fine. It's going to be a card I'm going to use, and so I'm just going to position it and then give it a good press. We got it glued down on its mechanism, and it is functioning. We just have a little bit of the black that shows up there. I actually have a little bit of the red on my Count Dracula as well, and I did put it on the underneath. It's just how it worked out. So I'm just going to lay my bow down here and give it a press, and then here we go. And you can see that there's a little bit of wiggle room in there, but it slides very easily. So that'll finish off our cat. I'm going to get it on a card base. I haven't laid it on a card base. And then we'll have our card come together, and then we're going to work on our pumpkin. And so there we go. I think it's fun, super fun. And I think once I get it mastered, it'll be really nice because you can really quickly put together some cards with this. So there we go. I've got my pull on there, and then we've got our little Happy Halloween on the inside. So I'm going to bring in the pumpkin, and the pumpkin actually has its own little slider mechanism. Right here it is. You don't have to use the one that comes with the slider die set. You can use this one for the teeth. And you can see this time I'm going to put it on the bottom of it, and I've already stamped pull before we got too far along, and then we've got our pumpkin. And so I'm just going to figure out how to make everything fit in there the way I want to make it fit. And here is our top panel. You can see I used the same color cardstock for the underneath that I did for the top, and it just kind of gives it more of a cohesive look when you've got that slider piece down. So I'm going to go ahead and get my slider piece, the pull tab on it, and I'm going to put it on the back side this time. I'm going to use some glue and some tape runner and position it. I'm using that middle tooth to kind of help me get it in the center. And then I think I might get it up a little bit high and have to lower it, but we'll just keep working with it, dry fitting it until I get it exactly like I want it. So this is our little frame, and I've got 2 layers of it die cut out, so it's a nice thick frame there. And then I'm just going to position it and just try to check it out and see how it looks. And I think I wind up putting my pumpkin up just a little bit, just so that my pole shows on it. And we'll position it like that. I want to get my teeth over that little window there, but then I also still want to be able to see my pole. So I'll get it worked out and we'll get it assembled. So I'm going to glue it down and just kind of following my frame, and then get it laid down on our, I think this is beeswax cardstock. And there we go. Trying to line it up with the bottom of my card base. And then we'll get our little mechanism laid in there. And then we're going to glue this up. And you got to remember to stay away from those sides. And just do the bottom, just like that, right around the bottom. And I put some little dots on there just to make sure I got enough glue on there. I was trying to go easy on the glue. And then line it up with the bottom. And then just give it a press all the way around there. And just checking to make sure everything's functioning and moving. And then we're going to bring this pumpkin in. We've got to assemble it. So there's a black piece that goes behind the eyes, and it's just kind of a rounded piece, and it'll cover the eyes and the nose. And then there's some decorative pieces that go on the inside of the eyes that kind of give it a fun look. So we'll lay this down on there. There's not a lot of pieces to this. It's you've got the back to the eyes, you've got the little, I guess, crescent moon shaped piece that goes in the eyes, you've got the stem, some greenery, and then you've got your slider and your pole mechanism. So it'll go together pretty quickly. Once you get the mechanism figured out, you know how to lay them down correctly. So I'll just add some glue. We've got these eyes in there. That's super fun. I've got the stem, which I've got some brown cardstock from Spellbinders. And then we've got some green Spellbinders cardstock here for the kind of the vine. And I'm going to get it positioned on there. We'll just put a little dab of glue and get it laid right down on our pumpkin. And now we're ready to lay our pumpkin on our slider mechanism. I need to stamp my message in there. So I'm going to decide what I'm going to use. And we're going to go all tricks, no treats on this one. And then we'll just bring in the Misty again, just trying to make sure. I mean, I've spent all this time putting this mechanism together. I want to get it stamped right. So I'll put my little magnet on there and just get it laid down on there. And we're going to do all tricks, no treat. And I'm going to use my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and just give it a good press and get it stamped down nice. And then we'll have our sentiment on the inside of our pumpkin mouth. And I like the yellow in there. I do think it gives it more of a cohesive look with the back of your card. With your, I guess your card base is what I'm meaning. So there we go. And so I'm going to bring the pumpkin back in. We're going to get this positioned. And then I'll just fuss with it until I'm sure that I've got it in a way that it's going to work with the sentiment and that everything will slide okay. And so we're going to get this laid down. So we'll just glue it up. And again, try to stay away from those edges. I think I wind up getting some on there and then I wipe it off. Yeah, I'm getting carried away here. And so then I've realized, whoops, you've got it on there. So I just take my hand and I wipe all that glue away. And then we get it laid down on here. And I'm making sure that I'm covering up the top of that little window area on that top panel. And then it slides really well and it works out very, very nice. So put it on the bottom. And then next we're going to work with our vampire. And I've got some dark red cardstock. I wind up deciding to go with a poppy. I've got the poppy on the bow. And so I'll just decide to use that on our card. Now for this one, I'm not going to show the assembly of the mechanism or anything. I'm just going to show you the assembly of the vampire, and then we'll come back in with the card and check it out. And I did forget to put the bow on there until then when I took the pictures, and so we'll have a picture of it with the bow on there, but we're just going to assemble the vampire. So he's got this wild looking hair. I think it's super fun with the sideburns. You got to get those lined up really nice. Just cleaning up glue. And then we've got some eyebrows, and he's got those very pointed ears, and we've got some eyes, a nose, and some fangs, and then we've kind of got his little Count Dracula outfit. So I'm going to get some glue on these eyebrows and get them laid down on there. And there is good detail, so you know exactly where to put them. And the eyes are just the tiniest little eyes. And I had die cut them out in Fog, Anchor, and Poppy because I wasn't sure what color I wanted to use. And so we'll play around with a little bit. And ultimately, I will wind up going with the red. I think that's kind of fun for the vampire. So here's the fangs. I'm going to get one of them laid down on there. And I've got the fold cardstock. I did use white for the fangs just to try and make them look like teeth. And we're going to get them laid down on here. And then you can see over in my tray, I actually die cut the nose out in Fog and then Anchor as well. But I decided to go with Anchor here for the nose. And I'll get it laid down on there. And then we've got all these little eyeballs. And this is the Fog. This is the Anchor. And then this is the Poppy. And I decided to go with Poppy. And so I'm going to use these Poppy ones. And then I just felt like the eyes need a little bit more depth to them. And so we'll get these laid down on there. And I'll just bring in a black pen and kind of put a dot in the center just to give them a little bit more interest. I'm just going to use a fine Sharpie and just add something to it. So I'll just put a little bit of color down there in the center of that eyeball. I think it just makes it look a little bit more interesting. And then that'll finish off our eyes. And then we're going to bring in his little outfit. I'm going to clean off some glue there. And then for the outfit, there is a nice deboss detail that shows you right where the head lines up. So I'm just going to run a line of glue along there, and we'll position the head. And then that is the assembly of our vampire. Of course, we've got that bow on there, which I forgot to put on, but I'll put on later. Now here I'm bringing in the channel, and then I've got my Poppy cardstock. I've got a gray panel here and a black slider, and I decided I don't like that for his mouth. I don't know why I was thinking gray. We need to have red. And so as I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, I don't like that. So I'm going to bring in some Poppy cardstock, and we will recut that slider panel out. So I've got my Poppy, and then we're going to lay that underneath there, and I'm just going to line things up and take a look at it. Just trying to get everything lined up. Keep shifting on me. I should have used my magnets to kind of hold it in place while I was working with it. And then we'll lay this on there. So then I lost my footage. So this is the assembly of it minus the bow. And so I'll get the bow added on there for the pictures. And then I'm going to show you the other two. We've got our pumpkin. And it's super cute. I like the mouth on that. It's very fun. And then we also have our cat. And I think it works out pretty nice too. So these are super fun. So I'll link all the materials in the description box below so you can check it out. If you like this, I'll link up a playlist in which you can see some more content with Hero Arts. So thanks for watching and have a great day. Don't forget to hit the like button.